his own desk, it probably says so on the file. Second is that we will promise to send you presentations that have been made here, the resource manuals that I mentioned, anything else that Guy and Marion have promised to you that I don't know about, and also our email addresses for follow-up. You don't need to tell us, but we promise to send you all that stuff if you want. But just if we just start with UX, or just feel free. I mean, if you want to stay anonymous, if you never want to be in touch with World Heritage again, don't put your name down. But if you just give us your name, where you're from, and your email, and then we'll promise to send things to you. Sorry, I was standing in front of you. So make sure we can find you in the office. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is just to ask that, as I said at the top, just the one reflection you have, not a long speech and no need to feel kind of put too much on the spot, but just in this session, what your reflection is on, what you think we could do a little better or differently, or just something that you think is important out of the discussion that we've had here, so that we can hear back from you on one message that you've got out of this. And I'm going to start with you, Jameson, if you don't mind. We'll just sort of pass the mic around, and we'll start here, and just so nobody's surprised. We'll start here and just sort of go around. So, Jameson, the floor is yours. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11 people, I think. So it's 1 minute. Yeah, for 1 minute.
I guess my one take home is I'm really impressed at the effort to improve access to information, the transparency of World Heritage processes. Working in the extractive industry, this is both makes me a little bit nervous as well as makes me very excited, because one of the key issues I spoke to Mariam about was how some companies wish to operate in a level playing field with regard to World Heritage, and currently it is not a level playing field. So the increased transparency, as I said, is both a little bit nerve-wracking as well as a great opportunity, and I think it's inevitable, and I really, really applaud it.
Okay, thanks.
My simple remark would be that for NGOs and other outsiders who are not inside what I sometimes struggle with here, the World Heritage family, or the IUCN family, which sounds as menacing to me as the Olympic family. But those of us who are kind of outside of it, but very interested in getting further involved, it's kind of bewildering from the outside, even when you go through the good websites and just finding out how the organism functions, the important bits, how it all joins up, which is not that straightforward. So anything like these sessions, or what you could prepare or present as briefing notes to simplify what's a complex set of processes and outfits, would be good. I guess especially for NGOs, which may explain, or go to the question of why it's hard for them to attend so much. I suspect the complexity of what lies before might be a deterrent. So anything like this in other sessions and exercises to increase that level of simplification without making it too simplistic, I guess would be good.
Okay, I try my best to understand what you say. I get much information about the World Heritage site today. Thank you.
For me, this training, the topic was more or less, I was familiar, but was very clear for me some aspect, clarify. So this is good.
Okay.
It's good to clarify.
Don't compliment us. How do we make it better? How do we make it better?
A lot of things. Fact evaluation, monitoring.
Okay, thanks.
I just think there's a genuine commitment to capacity building in parts of the IUCN that perhaps aren't engaging or haven't engaged previously. So I think it's really genuine and frank and open, and I think it's very valuable.
I'd like to ask you you made a comment in the group which maybe you could just share about other commissions and so on. So I was just
okay. So with the annual conversations around the cultural landscapes network at home, IUCN is heavily criticised for being very species focused in the World Heritage Management process, information process, and that it comes in. It is criticised for being fairly closed, for not sharing with legal and cultural heritage practitioners as much as it should, and the lack of attention to Indigenous and local communities has been a particular criticism by that professional heritage network. You know, they're academics essentially, but heavily involved in economics. The European-centric nature of the World Heritage Convention comes in for a lot of drubbing. What's the Spanish? There's a particular term that's ascribed to the domination of the Spanish monuments. Francophone. From the outside looking in at the process, you do come with drubbing, but this has been a very refreshing process.
okay. Thanks.
Well, I didn't mention it, but just if you're asking for remarks, to reinforce the role of the local IUCN, maybe. I'm talking from the point of view of the practitioners, no, in World Heritage. So maybe to reinforce the role of the local IUCN, maybe we're talking about the tentative list. In France, it's very useful. We can work with the IUCN, it's precious. Then maybe to clarify the expert statute, because sometimes people evaluate some nomination bid, and at the same time they're also advisor for other sites. So sometimes it's not so clear. And maybe also we're talking about a proactive relationship, and maybe sometimes we are, for different reasons, sometimes we are scared to talk to you, and just to be able to speak freely, and just to improve the dialogue. And, just
okay, three points rather than one, which is great. Thank you.
So I'll reduce 2 points. The first point is thank you very much for all the presenters. I thought your knowledge and your being candid was quite good, so I really appreciate that. I learned a whole lot, so I appreciate that. I think my recommendation was, I think more sort of events like this to get the word out would be quite helpful. I know you're a small team, so you probably have limited resources. So to the extent that you can leverage other people that are interested in getting the word out would be, quite good. Some sort of maybe even downloadable presentation that people could use. I would certainly appreciate that, because I plan on talking about what I've learned here today to other people. And so some sort of downloadable presentation that highlights maybe not so much the details, but just really the opportunities for people outside the states themselves to participate in the whole thing, like you've been highlighting today. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I thought it's been excellent, and I think one of the things that I think would be useful is if we can build a group of people and NGOs around the world who are going to have a more consistent interaction with the convention. One of the things that we did in St. Petersburg was have a NGO forum before the committee meeting, and it could have been done a lot better, but it was still an excellent initiative. And I think having a session like this at those forums would be really good, because part of the reason that you don't get a lot of participation, I think, is one, it's extremely expensive. By the time staff are taken out for a couple of weeks, paid for in hotels, flown around the world, so you've got to have a decent amount of money there to start participating. And secondly, for the smaller groups, they're just never going to have the time or expertise to get across it. So workshops like this, I think, are invaluable, because once people have got basic framework, they can then start figuring out how they fit into it. So that's good.
Okay.
Thanks. I guess the most important thing for me was just this journey of increased transparency and searching for places for the community to engage. It's really been evident in workshops, so that's really pleasing. Because, you know, I guess one of the critical things for me in the ultimate success or failure of the convention is to start opening the process up to be more accountable, to more public scrutiny. So this is part of that, and I think that's extremely useful. And I certainly can see a range of additional places where the NGOs can engage with this whole process as a result of today, and hopefully as we build some momentum around this, we'll be able to jointly open up more spaces for community engagement. So that's very positive.
Yeah, well, as said before, my main interest is in monitoring, and I think what would be very good for the World Heritage sites would be to develop really specific monitoring programs for each site, and these should be not developed by the states, but by an external organization to tell them which things they really have to monitor, and also in which way, to make sure that the value is not lost. And this, particularly for the biodiversity sites, should then be implemented also or respond to adaptive management plans, so that it's really made sure that the values are not lost.
Okay, thanks. And Martin, you get the last word.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. In the beginning, I did indicate that my professional ambition was on intangible heritage.
Yeah.
The reason why I did indicate that is because, as most of you are aware, the IUCN program for 2013-2016 has identified valuing and conserving nature, and not only tangible nature, but also intangible nature. So I think I would recommend that the World Heritage Team Commission try to develop some guidelines for intangible heritage. What I didn't indicate this morning when I was coming, when I was introducing myself, is that I'm a member of the World Conservation Forum resource team. And I was sent here this morning to cover this particular event and report on it. And with the I was actually sent here to cover this event and to report on it. And I was specifically informed to capture the trends on threats, like what Jonathan talked about, climate change and so on, but also the trends on management effectiveness of World Heritage sites. I did speak a little bit with Mariam, and I couldn't get the trends on World Heritage sites in terms of this particular aspect. So she has borrowed me this report, Protect Ghana's Planet Report 2012, which, with the permission of the organizers of this meeting, I'm going to exploit this afternoon to produce my report for the trends to use in influencing the motions, members' motions, and the guiding the IUCN 2013-2016 program. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I use this?
Of course. Yes, it's just been launched 2 days ago, and it's also good to know how many people know that the Congress team is sending people to make sure that we're not just going to the pub and having a nice meeting. So that's great. Look, thanks for all of that great input. I think it's really good. So I've just captured it all, and I will take all that back. I think there's a whole heap of things that I can immediately see how we can build into some of what we're doing. I'd like to. We've got 5 minutes, I think, and I'd like to give the word before I close to Mariam and Guy, just to give your reflections on not so much on well, same question. What have you learned, and what do you think we do differently as a result of having this interaction? Mariam,
this was a really useful session for me because it illustrates, how lots of different stakeholders can get involved in the convention. And I think what I've taken from this is that have more workshops like this, to actually have maybe one in Brussels for NGOs, maybe one in the US for NGOs, maybe regional ones as well, in East Africa and West Africa and Australia, to get more people involved, because I think a lot of the, there's a number of issues with the convention right now, and NGOs can really do a lot to help us move the convention forward, so it should be one of our priorities. And I'll now pass to Guy, and thank you all. Oh, for this year, the first time. Surprisingly, there was still a lot of misbehavior.
Okay, thank you. No, I think it's very useful to have meetings like this. As Maria mentioned, we have been, as Secretariat and as advisory bodies, I think, quite worried about some of the developments in the convention. And we are desperately looking for ways to address these issues. And to me, I'm convinced that one of the issues would be to have more civil society involvement in the convention. And we always tend to say, but why are people not engaging more? We don't understand. It's so important. But I think today, for us, these processes are not complex because it's our daily life. It has become our daily life, unfortunately. And perhaps we have to find really ways to sort of think amongst ourselves what are the essential things to the essential parts to bring to people, and what is a way to engage people without frightening them about the so-called complexity of the system. So perhaps that's something we should work on.
Okay. Thanks, Guy. And Crystal.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me and involving me in the workshop. I enjoyed it. There's nothing like talking. It always helps. It's always rewarding, and it always gives us new ways of thinking about how we work. It's wonderful for me to meet more people from IUCN. I already have a very wonderful experience of working with your international team, but we're always looking at ways to work sideways as well as up and down. And I guess something I'll say, because we're talking and not speaking so publicly, is that whether World Heritage remains the kind of powerful conservation tool that it was intended to be and has been in the past depends on people everywhere still believing in it. And it's easy to have that threatened when some of these worrying trends that Guy has just referred to are seen. But actually it's the work that goes on every day in all the places you live and work that makes the World Heritage Convention worthwhile. And so while all this is complex and it's interesting to learn these rules, and please do, and please let us help it seem less complicated, the main thing is to really focus on the conservation outcomes always. So that's my continually reminding myself when I meet lots of people at a place like this.
Well, let me just close and thank everybody and make one or two comments. So, firstly, thanks to all of you for being here, and it was great to work with you. Thanks to my fellow conspirators in terms of running the session, and thanks for everybody for being super flexible about me changing the plan in the middle of. And Crystal, thanks so much for joining, because I think IUCN and everyone signed the other. Actually execute a kind of plan together, and I think that was great. And it's great to sort of join up with you. The main purpose of this session was to talk about the idea that this is a convention about action. It's an activist convention. It's about trying to get real conservation to happen. So I hope you're probably a bunch of activists, and that you'll go and be active on the World Heritage Convention and know how to activate it more as a result of this session. And it's also for us a process of building a network and making connections. So please stay connected with us, keep in touch, and I guess that's us on about time. So if you have any other observations, if you want to follow up with us, please don't hesitate. Just in closing, practical thing is, because we've moved around the room, this is the moment where people find that they've left something at another table, but they find out about it, they don't find it at this moment, they find about it in the middle of the afternoon. So please just make sure you visit all the different tables and check you didn't leave some bag or a coat or jacket behind. And otherwise, thanks very much. Enjoy this is halfway through the forum, so enjoy the second half of the forum. And enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks so much for being here. Cheers.